Lesson 13. Now we're going to discuss rental income, that's mainly for land, gambling, and cancellation of debt. These subjects can be found in Publication 4012, Tab D, or Publication 4491, that's Lessons 12 and 15. This is a Form 1099 MASC for miscellaneous income. It's used to report rents, royalties, and other income. Let's talk a bit about reporting what's in boxes 1, 2, and 3. There's an exercise in the self-study program that includes land rental. Now, land-only rentals are in scope for Tax-Aide, but only if no expenses are claimed on Schedule E. Otherwise, the taxpayer should be referred to a paid tax preparer. Now, if income is reported on the 1099 MASC, enter the 1099 MASC and fill in Schedule E. Otherwise, you go directly to Schedule E and enter the amount as rental income. Now, related interest and taxes may be deductible on Schedule A. I've never seen a land-only rental in my time doing taxes with Tax-Aide. Rental of a personal residence for less than 15 days during the year is not a taxable event. Don't enter the income unless the income is reported on a Form 1099 MASC. In that case, enter the 1099 MASC form and generate a Schedule E. When you save the 1099 MASC information, a screen will appear asking if you want to generate Schedule E. Enter the same amount as an additional expense labeled less than 15-day rental of a main home. You do this on the Schedule E Rentals and Royalties page under Expenses. This will zero out the rental income, which would not have been reported if a 1099 MASC form hadn't been issued. Now, this applies to a home that the taxpayer used personally for at least 15 days that was not rented for more than 14 days. Doesn't mean 14 days at a time. It means a total of 14 days in a year. Royalty income from Form 1099 MASC with no expenses is in scope. Now, Box 2 royalties for use of property, that's for oil and gas, as an example, enter in Box 2 so the income goes to Schedule E. Now, Box 2 royalties as a result of self-employment, those are writers and singers and so forth, enter that in Form 1099 NEC Box 1 so it goes to Schedule C. Gambling winnings are generally reported on Form W2G. Whether they are or not depends on the amount of the winnings, the type of gambling, and the ratio of winnings to wagers. Now, gambling losses can be claimed, but only if the taxpayer itemizes and reports the losses, and that's only up to the amount of winnings on Schedule A. Now, if someone wins $40,000 and loses $50,000, they can only itemize $40,000 in losses. Some taxpayers incorrectly believe they can just deduct losses from their income, but that's not the case. So please note that professional gamblers, unlike non-professionals, treat their winnings and losses as though they were a small business. They must fill out a Schedule C and can offset losses as expenses against their self-employment income. Unlike other small business owners, professional gamblers can also offset losses that exceed winnings against other income they may have. However, a professional gambler who wants to use Schedule C would be out of scope for us. Here's a Form W2G. Many gambling establishments have their own form. Some are filled in by hand or can be a carbon copy, which can often be hard to read. I had several of those last year. Now, the boxes should correspond to the IRS form. You'll see winnings from Massachusetts casinos, but most often you'll see winners of Massachusetts lottery scratch tickets. And now, cancellation of debt. That's in scope and reported as income if the credit card is not a business-related card. It has to be a personal card. Number 2, the taxpayer is not filed for bankruptcy. Number 3, the taxpayer is not insolvent at the time of cancellation. Now, insolvent means that the taxpayer had debts that were more than assets owned. Now, if a taxpayer has other types of debt canceled, car loans are the most common, refer them to a professional preparer. Now, cancellation of debt is reported on a 1099-C form if the amount is $600 or more. If it's under $600, it must still be reported on the other income line of Form 1040. An amount in Box 3 can be ignored as it's included in Box 2. Now, because only non-business credit card debt is in scope, any interest forgiven is also income. Now note, if Box 6 does not contain a code of A, which is bankruptcy, but the taxpayer declared bankruptcy following the cancellation of debt, the return's out of scope for us. The American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 modified the treatment of student loan forgiveness for discharges in tax years 2021 through 2025. So generally, if the taxpayer is responsible for making loan payments and the loan is canceled or repaid by someone else, the taxpayer must include the amount that was canceled or paid on their behalf in their gross income for tax purposes. However, the taxpayer may be able to exclude this amount from gross income if the loan was a loan for post-secondary educational expenses, a private education loan, or for several other reasons. Now, all types of student loan forgiveness are tax-free through December 31st, 2025. This includes both federal and private student loan discharges, regardless of the reason. So even if taxpayer received the 1099-C for cancellation of student loan debt, there will be no federal income tax due as a result. And this is where we would normally pause for any questions or comments.